Tonight on Reporting Scotland, police confirmed 2 bodies found in a West Lothian house are a father and daughter. The alarm was raised when 6-year-old Hope didn't turn up for school.
Sadly, upon arrival at the property, we couldn't gain access, therefore we forced entry with colleagues from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, and tragically we did find the 2 deceased persons within.
Also tonight, the uncertain future for Scotland's only college for students with complex needs.
You know, how would he fill his day? How would we manage to keep him stimulated? So it's very stressful.
And calls to improve hospital access for people living on the island of Barra.
Still to come in the sport, it's a huge midweek of European football, and it all starts tonight when Celtic hosts Young Boys in the Champions League.
I'm kind of like the Pied Piper of Pitlochry.
And traitor or faithful, we speak to actor Alan Cumming on his latest role. Hello, I'm Laura Goodwin. Welcome to Wednesday's programme. Police have confirmed that a man and a little girl found dead at a house in West Lothian were father and daughter. The bodies of 6-year-old Hope and 36-year-old Mark Gordon were found when officers forced entry to the property in West Calder on Monday. It's emerged a family member raised concerns when Hope didn't attend school. Cameron Buttle reports.
The bodies of 36-year-old Mark and his 6-year-old daughter Hope were found on Monday afternoon. The alarm had been raised when she hadn't turned up at Toronto Primary School in Livingston. Today, the head teacher said Hope was a bright, bubbly and affectionate girl who brought joy to everyone. We will really miss her infectious smiles and kind heart. The major investigation team from Police Scotland is now in charge of the inquiry, and they appeal for anyone with information to come forward as soon as possible. Officers carried out local inquiries that eventually led to the home in Harburn Drive in West Calder. Firefighters were called in to break down the door.
The local policing officers attended what was a very traumatic experience for them, as you can imagine, and it's something that we're working our way through in terms of processing the scene as well, and we'll hopefully get a full information picture of that in due course.
Today, senior officers stressed that inquiries are still at a very early stage. No cause of death has been released and a post-mortem examination is still to be carried out. But it was confirmed that detectives believe no one else was involved in the incident.
Inquiries are clearly still at a relatively early stage, therefore I'm unable to go into any detail on the cause of death at this time, and post-mortem examinations will be undertaken over the course of this week. We are working tirelessly to understand exactly what happened within the property and to clearly answer questions from the understandably devastated family members and the wider community across West Calder and the West Lothian area.
The investigation is continuing here at the house, but police today have refused to say when Mark and Hope were last seen. But they did say that the family were known to police, but they have stressed that not too much should be read into that and said that it is not a relevant part of the investigation. Tonight, senior officers said it would take some time to examine the scene, but they appreciated the family and the wider community wanted answers. Specialist officers would continue to support the family throughout the investigation.
And Cameron is with us now. As we can see, Cameron, the police remain at the scene this evening.
Yes, what was a very wide, large police cordon has just been moved to allow local people more access to the area, but there is still a very significant police presence in West Calder this evening. Police commanders say that is for reassurance and support to the community. It's not because they believe there's any threat or risk to the wider West Calder population, because they believe the incident was self-contained in this house behind me on Monday. People have come down and laid some flowers this evening. It's still very raw down here. They didn't want to speak on camera, but they talked of it being a tragedy and how they were thinking of the family. But people can expect to see investigators at the crime scene here for some time yet. And Police Scotland said the reassurance patrols will continue into next week.
OK. Cameron, many thanks indeed. The family of a teenager who was murdered in 2008 say they feel victims and their families need more of a voice about the impact the crime has on them. Michelle Stewart was just 17 when she was stabbed to death by her ex-boyfriend in the Ayrshire village of Drongan. John Wilson, who's now 36, was released last week. Katrina Renton reports.
That's Michelle. happy smile, obviously.
For Michelle Stewart's dad Kenny and brothers Stephen and Kenny, this week has been especially difficult. Last Wednesday, the man who killed her was released from prison.
His full life's ahead of him. I mean, he only done 16 years, it's only a section of life. He's got other chapters in his life. Michelle's ended at a great age to be, 17, 18, your full life in front of you, and a lot of our school friends have now got families and got jobs and kids.
Michelle was murdered in the village of Drongan in East Ayrshire in 2008 by her ex-boyfriend John Wilson, who was 20 at the time. He was sentenced to a minimum of 12 years in prison before he could be considered for parole. He served more than 16 years in jail.
And I think for Michelle's legacy.
Michelle's family launched Michelle's Law. Among their requests that the parole board include exclusion zones be put in place after they learned Wilson had been in Ayr near where they live when he was on temporary release. The family feel they have had some success. Wilson has been banned from entering Ayrshire without prior permission, and he's been told not to approach or contact Michelle's family or friends. But they still believe victims of crime need to be heard more in the process.
I think it's important that these people making these decisions take into account the impact this has had on families. You know, it's easy to just sit and focus on him, and everything seems to gear towards them, giving them a better life, making sure that they get out and they build a new life. For us, you're forgotten about. I don't even think you're an afterthought if you're a thought at all.
The parole board says it does not comment on individual cases, but it takes into account all of the information before a prisoner is considered for release. This defence lawyer explains what happens.
Our system of criminal justice does place importance on the possibility that people can be rehabilitated. But they will be on licence until the day that they die. That is the life portion of this sentence, such that if they fail to measure up to the obligations imposed on them by the parole board in their conditional release, they'll just be taken back into custody.
If something was taken away from you, you know, you could never get back. It's just hard knowing that you're never going to get to see her again and see her grow up and enjoy life.
Michelle's family say they will never stop campaigning for more rights for victims and their families. Katrina Renton, reporting Scotland, Ayrshire.
There'll be more on this story on tonight's News at 7, and Laura McKeever is here to tell us more.
Indeed, we'll have an extended version of Katrina's interview with Michelle's family at 7, Laura. Also tonight, we're going to be speaking to a public health consultant, hearing about that first week of the drug consumption facility in Glasgow. We'll have a report on rewilding and rewilding activists following the Lynx incidents in Scotland. And are you a Traitors fan?
Of course.
The Scottish banished Alex will spill as much tea as he can about what's going on.
Not too much tea. I haven't seen that episode yet, so that was a wee bit of a spoiler for me. But nonetheless, thank you very much, Laura.
BBC Scotland, 7 o'clock.
Thank you. Some of the day's other stories now. More than 60 people were moved from their homes after a serious fire near Aberdeen's Pittodrie Stadium. The blaze broke out at around 8 this morning at a garage on Merkland Road East. 7 fire appliances and a height vehicle tackled the blaze. No one was injured. Smoke from the fire could be seen from around the city. A rest centre was set up at the Aberdeen Sports Village for residents affected. First Minister John Swinney says he has confidence in Health Secretary Neil Gray, who's been forced to apologise for a second time over his attendance at football matches. Gray said in November that he attended games on official ministerial business and that summary notes had been taken for all the meetings he held during games. This week he said sorry to MSPs after admitting records were not kept for all the meetings. Meanwhile, the First Minister has called for a bespoke visa to allow international students to stay in Scotland after graduation. In a speech about the economy in Glasgow, John Swinney said the country needed immigrants to bolster the working age population, to increase productivity and to increase tax revenues. He reminded the audience that there had been a tailored migration route under the previous Labour government 20 years ago and urged the current UK government not to dismiss the proposal out of hand. A generation of disabled young people is being failed by the further education system. That's according to teaching unions, charities and parents. The only college in Scotland designed to support students with complex disabilities faces closure this summer. Corsford College in Renfrewshire was set up as a pilot to prove there's a gap in the sector. The Scottish Government say the situation is under review. Ian Hamilton has been speaking to one family affected.
Here we go. You ready? The brakes are on.
At home, Lewis's mother, Cheryl, is helping him get ready for college.
Yeah, you feel as if you're in. Good. When Lewis was born, he was premature. He was born at 28 weeks and unfortunately suffered quite a severe brain hemorrhage, which has left him with cerebral palsy and complex needs such as epilepsy.
Lewis is 18 and attends a specialist college that meets his needs.
Have a good day.
Lewis travels daily from Kilmarnock to Cosford College in Renfrewshire, the only one of its kind in Scotland. 2 years ago, the charity Capability Scotland established the college as a pilot to meet an urgent need. But the college is under threat of closure this summer if they don't receive the £700,000 from the Scottish Government, required to keep it open for another academic year.
We know that there's huge demand, not just in this area, but right across Scotland. And I think it would be a massive backward step to being in a position where we have no specialist colleges for young people and we're not allowing them to continue that educational journey.
Teaching unions agree that those with specialist needs are being squeezed out of further education.
In the past, there were adult training centres and we used to provide educational provision in the centres. But what they were promised when they closed those centres was that there would be educational provision within their community. There would be places that they could go within their community to learn, and they just aren't.
The Scottish Government told me that they're continuing to work with Capability Scotland to commission an independent evaluation of the pilot, which will allow them to plan for future specialist provision. The college is under threat. What happens if it closes?
The biggest thing is, you know, how would he fill his day? How would we manage to keep him stimulated? So it's very stressful, very stressful.
Cheryl Sim ending that report by Ian Hamilton. Tonight's main news again. Police confirm 2 bodies found in a West Lothian house are a father and daughter.
Still to come in the sport, it's a huge midweek of European football and it all starts tonight when Celtic hosts Young Boys in the Champions League.
Now, we hear a lot about NHS waiting times, but for many island communities, they also face long journeys to access specialist healthcare. People in Barra in the Western Isles can face trips of 5 hours or more to reach hospital in Stornoway. Locals are instead calling for patients to have access to hospitals in Glasgow, which is just 1 hour away by plane. Alistair McLennan has more.
For visitors, travelling to and from Barra can be a stunning experience. For those in the community, though, it can be problematic when it comes to travelling to hospital. There is a hospital situated on the other side of the bay here, but like many community hospitals across Scotland, it doesn't have specialised equipment. That leaves some patients here having to travel as far away as Stornoway for treatment within the same health board area. The treatment that we receive there isn't the issue though. It's the distance, the cost and the discomfort that they sometimes face getting there and getting back.
When you factor in the cost of travelling, a fraction of that is reimbursed, and in my opinion that clashes with the overall sort of ethos and ideas behind the NHS at being free at the point of need.
People are going to Stornoway. You have staff there who are more understanding of island life, who'll be able to communicate with them in their own language. The problems are all to do with the travel there and back.
NHS Western Isles say they understand the inconvenience and frustrations some face, but that the support they provide is reasonable.
There always is a bit of a trade-off there. You know, if you live too far away from where you're going, then you'll get a high level of reimbursement, but not 100%.
Some are looking at the possibility of being treated in Glasgow, an hour's flight away from Barra. Others would like to see an air service reinstated between Barra and Stornoway, although there are questions over funding.
As is the council already pays for one flight from Benbecula to Stornoway, maybe the NHS themselves should be chipping in. They say they're not a travel service, well, either does the council, but we're still chipping in. It's a necessity, it's needed.
At a time where public finances are stretched, that may not happen soon. In the meantime, the people of Barra and Watershay will continue to deal with the challenges faced in travelling the length of the Western Isles for healthcare. Alistair McLennan, reporting Scotland on the Isle of Barra.
Well, time now for sport with Lewis, and quite a busy week coming up, isn't it? Midweek sport,
yeah. Really big week, Laura, absolutely. Not just interesting games, but potentially very big results needed for Scottish teams.
Oh, we'll let you get to it.
Thanks very much, Laura. Yes, hello there. Well, it is a mouth-watering midweek of football lying ahead. Starting in the East End of Glasgow tonight, Celtic are 1 win away from all but guaranteeing their progression in the Champions League. Young Boys of Switzerland are the visitors to Parkhead, and David Curry is there.
Celtic know that a win tonight just about guarantees them a place in the next stage of the Champions League with a game to spare. Even a draw might be sufficient to ensure they finish no lower than 24th out of the 36 teams in the league stage. Their opponents, Young Boys of Switzerland, the Swiss champions, are 36th out of the 36 teams in the league, and they don't have a point to their name. And it would be fair to say that optimism in these parts is running fairly high.
I'm just looking forward to seeing us perform. You know, everyone will look at the expectation that's on us, but we expect ourselves to go and perform. We've had 3 games here now at this stadium. The atmosphere has been incredible, and we want to bring that again and finish off this run of games in the group stages with a win.
Well, hopefully if we take the chances we've been creating in the last game, we should win relatively comfortably, I think.
We've got to really try and win the home games, so this lot are bottom of the league and they've not got many points, so it's our night to shine.
Knockout Champions League football, it hasn't been done in, what was it, like, it's a long time, 10 years, 15 years, so all good, yeah, should be good.
So a win should do it, a draw might do it, and even a defeat tonight doesn't end Celtic's hopes of progressing to the next round. What it will mean, though, is that they have to go away to play Aston Villa next week, perhaps needing a win or maybe even just a point to see them through to the next round of the competition. Their first appearance in the knockout phase of the Champions League since 2013. All in all, should be an interesting night here at Celtic Park.
Tonight, another blockbuster matchup lies ahead. Rangers have arrived in England ahead of their Europa League clash with Manchester United. So too has Sheila McLaren there, who's at Old Trafford. Sheila.
I have indeed, Lewis. Yes, tomorrow will be the penultimate night of the league phase of this competition for Rangers, and occasions don't come much bigger than this. A Battle of Britain clash at one of the most iconic stadiums in the world. Both sides are eyeing a place in the top 8, which would mean automatic progression to the last 16. And Rangers could be getting their opponents at a good time, if there is a good time to play here. They've only won 1 of their previous 5 fixtures here at Old Trafford. But Philippe Clement is only thinking about his own team and creating a special night for the club.
It's not about all the noise around us, it's about what we do on the pitch, with and without the ball. And that the team is doing better and better the last couple of months, that's what we need to show tomorrow to write history here. It's, I think, a very long time ago that Rangers won at English Shaw. So let's go for the challenge and give everything that we have.
Well, the manager says they'll be without 8 first-team players for tomorrow night's match through injury, suspension and omission from the European squad. But the good news for Rangers is that goalkeeper Jack Butland does return as they look to continue their impressive form in this competition.
OK, Sheila, well, we look forward to that one. Thank you very much. And as Sheila referenced there, Manchester United are having a disastrous season, prompting their new manager, Ruben Amorim, to describe the current team as the worst side in the club's history. A home defeat to Brighton on Sunday was United's 10th league loss of the season, their 13th in the Premier League. They're faring better in the Europa League though, sitting 1 place above Rangers in 7th, but Amorim knows his side need to be much better.
We have to improve in the details, and I explained that. The way we play, we are too nervous with the ball, too nervous, really anxious. And then if you have a little bit experience in this game, when you fall in this type of context, it's really hard to go up, especially when you are a massive club.
Finally, to tennis, and after securing his place in the semi-final of the Australian Open, Novak Djokovic showed his appreciation to former rival and now coach Andy Murray. The 37-year-old defied injury, age and ranking to come back from a set down to win 3-1 against his 21-year-old opponent Carlos Alcaraz in Melbourne. And there was one man, the 24-time major champion, singled out immediately after securing victory.
Yeah, a gesture of appreciation and respect for him, and the fact that he's out there, you know, and he doesn't need to be, and that he accepted to work with me, and that he's, you know, giving all his support to me, to the whole team, and trying to make it work. And this was a huge win for all of us, including Andy and myself, you know, for the relationship. So yeah, that's the why I went to him, because I just felt very grateful that he's there.
Still takes some getting used to see that, doesn't it, Laura?
Seems to be working.
It certainly does. And over on the news at 7 very shortly, I'll be speaking to former Celtic defender Jackie McNamara ahead of that big game tonight.
Oh, looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Lewis. Now, Alan Cumming has taken on many different parts in his long career, from Broadway star to host of the American version of Traitors. Now he is returning to his Perthshire roots and taking over the running of Pitlochry Festival Theatre. Our arts correspondent, Pauline McLean, has been speaking to him about his ambitions for the new role. And just to warn you, there is some flash photography.
Pitlochry Festival Theatre, which I've been desperate to visit for years, has been entertaining visitors to the town since it was founded in a tent in 1951.
Pitlochry is just a few miles from where Alan Cumming grew up, but it's a world away from Broadway. So it took this visit for a TV programme for the previous director to plant the seed that he should one day take over.
I came here and she showed me around and blah, blah, blah. And whilst I was doing that, she said, "Have you ever thought of running a building?" I was like, "No," I've kind of joked about it, but... And she goes, "You should run this place."
Welcome to the Traitors! A year later, he was revealed as the new artistic director, sharing the news just as the Traitors US, which he produces and presents, won an Emmy. It was a chance to share the limelight with Scotland, and in particular, Highland Perthshire.
What really excited me was when I saw the sort of mantra of Pitlochry, which is, you know, share Pitlochry with the world and the world with Pitlochry. And I thought, I can do that. I know how to do that. I go out into the world. I am from here. I go out into the world. I bring the world back here. And that really excited me. And I just said, but I have other things going on in my life. But I feel I can do this job.
He's been a familiar face on Scottish stage and screen for the past decade, and he says he hopes to direct or star in at least one show each season.
It will have blood.
His own career has taken him from Scotland to Broadway and back again, and he hopes the work created here can do the same.
I want people to say, gosh, I had such fun when I went to that theatre. It was really great things to do. I loved going for a drink in the bar and I loved chatting, and they had fun things on. And the other thing I want people to say is, gosh, wasn't it amazing when that show started at Pitlochry and went to Broadway? I think it's exciting for me because I want to do things that obviously I like, but of course I want to bring everyone along. I'm kind of like the Pied Piper of Pitlochry.
Pauline McLean, reporting Scotland, Pitlochry.
Time now for the weather, and we usually start, Christopher, don't we, with a weather picture, but actually the situation's changed in terms of the storm that's coming. It's been upgraded, so a lot of important information for people to take in tonight.
Yes, indeed. If you've been watching all week, you know there's a storm on Friday, and as you say, we now have an elevated amber warning on Friday for central and southern Scotland. Some very high winds, damaging winds on the way. Thanks very much indeed. A very good evening to you. We've had a peaceful day of weather, though, today. There were some areas of sunshine around, but for many it was rather grey and quite cold, wasn't it? Into this evening, still fairly calm conditions. There'll be a few showers around, some mist and fog. Like last night, temperatures not far off freezing in towns and cities in the northeast, sub-zero. Tomorrow, we've got a weather front bringing some outbreaks of rain, but you can see behind me, there it is, there's Storm Erwin moving its way in across the Atlantic. But before we get to Friday, let's look at Thursday. It's a largely dry start. There'll be some areas of mist and fog around, and then cloud builds and the rain arrives. This band of rain working its way northwards across the country through the course of the day. Once the rain arrives with you, probably a pretty soggy afternoon, has to be said. And underneath the rain, with temperatures around 5 or 6 Celsius, feeling quite cold, there will be some snow across the higher ground for areas north of the central belt. The further north and northeast that you are, drier for longer. Around the west coast, the winds veering westerly once that rain clears and strengthening. Now, for Friday's storm, we need to look to the jet stream to understand what's happening. It's running very fast indeed, 250 miles an hour or thereabouts, and that will help spin up that system, rapidly deepening it and sending it to our shores. A potent system arriving on Friday. Now, there is a Met Office yellow warning for snow first thing on Friday morning, but really it's the higher ground north of the central belt that will see the worst of that, blizzard-type conditions once you've added on the wind. And whilst there is a countrywide yellow warning for wind, this is the elevated amber warning area through much of central and southern Scotland on Friday, because we are expecting some damaging wind gusts. So through Friday, we've got the rain and the snow working its way northwards, and then squally showers or longer spells of rain. But we'll likely see some significant impacts from the winds, certainly some flying debris, some trees being brought down, damage to buildings, power cuts, large waves around the coast, and of course some significant travel disruption as well. On top of that, we've got all of that wet weather to contend with and blizzard conditions in the mountains. So certainly, if you do have any plans at all on Friday, they will likely be disrupted by Storm Eowyn, which is set to arrive, bringing some fairly significant and damaging weather. That's the forecast for now.
OK, Christopher, many thanks indeed. Now, tonight's main news again. Police have confirmed that a man and a little girl found dead at a house in West Calder were father and daughter. The bodies of 6-year-old Hope and 36-year-old Mark Gordon were found when officers forced entry to the property on Monday. Anne McAlpine will be here with your late news at around 10:30. But until then, from everyone on the team, thank you very much for joining us. Bye-bye.